So who is Carlos Vicente and why have Birmingham spent £7 million to bring the Spaniard to the football club this January? Well, in this video, I'm going to tell you everything you need to know about it. Also, if you haven't yet subscribed, it's free to do so. We're on the hunt to reach 16,000 subscribers. It would mean the world. Let's go. Birmingham's approach in January has made sense. Target profiles the squad don't have. In midfield, they lacked athletic progression, so Solis made sense. At left wing, there was very little pace and directness, which is why Osman fits really well. Up front, none of Birmingham's strikers could be that true focal point. I think Priska can grow into that role. And on the right side, it's essentially been Patrick Roberts and only Patrick Roberts. And that's nothing against Patrick Roberts, by the way, because he has been one of Birmingham's most effective attacking players this season. But the best squads have variety. The teams that win the most often at any level are the ones that can add something different to a game. And so, like pretty much every Birmingham signing, Carlos Vicente is exactly that. He's different. This is Vicente's heat map in La Liga, and straight away it's abundantly clear that the majority of his activity comes along the right touchline. His role is to keep the pitch wide and progress play effectively. With plenty of touches in deeper areas, it shows he's comfortable receiving in all three thirds, but his first instinct is to use this incredible engine that he possesses to move play forward, which is why you'll see a significant number of touches also in the opposition penalty area as well. Now, this is the championship heat map of Patrick Roberts, and it looks very different. He still operates primarily on the right, but unlike Vicente, Roberts enjoys drifting into the right half space. He's far less involved in deeper areas of the pitch, and as a left-footed player, he naturally looks to invert to get on the ball closer to goal. So, it's not about who's better and who's worse, it's about variety. In Carlos Vicente, we're looking at a slightly more traditional throwback wide player who stretches the play and carries the ball large distances to create. And with Patrick Roberts, we're talking about an inverted winger who drifts, finds pockets and decides games much closer to goal. One of Vicente's biggest strengths is his delivery, which in turn allows him to generate a really strong number of chances. Vicente here is extremely wide. We can see him just about on the right side of the pitch, almost standing on the touchline, linking back to what we said earlier about him making the pitch feel really wide, stretching the play. And he's going to receive the ball from his centre-back here, a really nice direct, punchy pass, you'd say, into the wide area. And now when he's on the ball here, he can turn and he's got a bit of space to run into. Now, a lot of wide players, and some of the wide players that we've spoken about, Osman in particular, in this position, you'd probably expect him to carry the ball a slightly larger distance down this flank here. But instead, what he does is he carries it a little bit with the space that he's got himself because of the strong positioning and that initial pass that goes straight into him, a punchy pass. And now he is on the ball up against the defender. And after a brief carry, and you'll notice something with Vicente often, and I'm going to use this piece of analysis, I think, throughout this video, especially in this section, because it's really, really important, because we speak about crossing, we speak about delivery. I think in his last game in La Liga, he had 19 attempted crosses, and we're going to bring some numbers to the table a little bit later, because he crosses the ball often. And the reason why he does this is because he actually delivers extremely early. So he carries the ball ever so slightly here up against the defender, and by the time we next see him here, he's already lining up across into the box, which is exactly what he does. He doesn't carry on, he doesn't drive towards the byline for driving to the byline's sake. If there's an opportunity there to whip the ball in early, he will do that. And the reason why he does that is because he can catch defenders off guard. The opposition defenders don't want to make decisions early, so if he can cause chaos inside the penalty area at a rapid rate, he will do so. It also keeps the tempo really high. It keeps his side on the front foot. If there's an opportunity to make and cause danger without taking too many touches, Carlos Vicente will do that. A quick, brief carry. Defender tries to stop the cross. He doesn't. It's a quick ball into the area, and it lands on the head of the forward, who heads over. This time we see a combination of Vicente's 1v1 ability and then his delivery into the box. We know he prefers an early cross, often earlier than most wingers, but if the beating of the defender is going to allow him to create a better angle, he's happy to do that, and he's got the capabilities to do that too. We see him receiving the ball here, up against this defender here, and he really nicely just knocks this ball forward, and he's got the pace to beat the defender really quite nicely. Sometimes there's a misconception that players look to cross from deeper areas, and players that like crossing crossing early, perhaps do it because they don't have the pace to take on defenders. Well, this is just not the case. And we're going to come on to Vicente's background before football, which could be quite interesting. Did a bit of digging on Vicente and his background. I think when we look at his strength and his physicality and his powerfulness when he carries and drives with the ball, which we do see here, there's something quite interesting to note a little bit later. More on that when we speak about his defensive contributions, because that's all in show there as well. But he uses it offensively, and we see that here. So he brushes past this defender. He, again, fantastic change of pace, actually just drifting off the pitch here. Gareth Bale style in the league. We've seen that before, haven't we? And then Vicente now is in a position, like I said, where he's got a better angle to cross the box. Again, we compare it to what we saw earlier. This position here, I mean, maybe he could swing a ball. I mean, he's got the strength to do it. He could play a ball inside. If he wanted to use that delivery, he could maybe play a cross in here. I think that player might be slightly offside, so good job he doesn't. And also he wants to cause chaos into the box. And of course a cross here would eventually get it into the box, but not straight away. And also at this point, crucially, this back line is looking pretty strong. You've got a decent enough structure here. But by taking this player on, which he does, we come back to the one that we were last at. Now suddenly that back line certainly isn't structured, because this player here has had to come out and cover the defender that's been done by Vicente in the first place, leaving a Alavés player here and, crucially, his potential target, no spoilers here, totally unmarked, and one defender looking at both. So a really strong piece of skill and take-on ability has disorganised this back line. And then we come back to his ability to cross earlier. Slight spoiler there, I apologise. He now looks to cross from this position. He doesn't continue driving. A lot of wingers would maybe continue. They've got a bit excited and now looking to head towards the byline. And he can do that. He will have touches inside this part of the penalty area, as we saw by his heat map. This is a part of the box that he will look to drive in. But if that ability is on and that decision is on to play this cross into the area, now is a great time to do it, because like I said, his take on has absolutely thrown this back line into disarray, and his potential target here, who's just now making a late run into the area, eventually when the cross does come in, now he gets his head on it and he scores. So what we see there is really strong decision making. He uses his strengths. He can beat defenders with great skill, and again, a really strong take on asset that he offers. And then also his crossing, which I think is his biggest strength, or certainly one of his biggest strengths. And we see it being done here as well. So I really like this. I think it brings it all together, and we can combine that early crossing ability, but also that ability to take on defenders as well. So we're seeing a nice, I guess, blend of the two aspects there. I think in this example, we see similarities to what I've just shown you, but this is against Real Madrid with Vicente once again in a wide position. And even against Real Madrid here, there's an ability with Vicente in the side to stretch the play in wide areas. Playing through the middle against a side like Real Madrid could be fairly dangerous. But having that option and having that out ball, if you like, in wide areas, which Vicente gives you, is very, very helpful. And Alavés are going to do that here. He gets the ball in the wide area, now up against Jude Bellingham, which is a tricky one. He's also got a fullback here looking to stop him from driving down the flank, which is fine, because what Vicente does here, and we come back to recognising that pressure, he's under pressure here. He could play a pass back to the fullback, which again is an option. It's the safe option here. It would allow them to certainly keep hold of the ball. He could drive down the flank, but by doing that, he's maybe forcing a dribble into traffic and risking a turnover, doesn't want to lose the ball. So what he does is he still wants to make something happen. And that's what I really like about him. Even against the top opposition in the Liga, he still looks to make something happen. So what he does is we see that ability to make the right call here, use that great strength of his, which is early, aggressive deliveries inside the area. So what he does is exactly that. He takes a step forward, allows Jude Bellingham to step in a little bit, but still creates that angle to fire a ball straight into the penalty area. And some will say, look, is that a silly decision? There was a pass on there that would allow them to regain the ball. But if you've got only a couple of entries into the penalty area in a game, and maybe you're going to see more with Birmingham, which I think is why it's important to highlight this, and we sort of see a comparison. There aren't many sides in the Championship that are going to be just as good as Real Madrid. But what it does show us there is his ability and his bravery, his confidence to swing a ball in, but also not be silly enough to do something that would be almost, well, driving into a bunch of opposition players, which would take a lot more luck in a way. So what he does is exactly that. He swings the ball into the area, and you can see here this defender does get on the end of it. It's a really strong cross. He heads it, and it is straight into the hands of Courtois here. It doesn't lead to a goal, but it's a shot on target, which I think is great, and also shows us the delivery was really, really good. In La Liga this season, he attempted 6.67 crosses per 90, which is remarkably high when it comes to deliveries, with 2.2 of those finding a teammate, as we've just seen there. Those numbers see him sit in the top 1% of La Liga attackers for crosses into the box. That's a nice number. That's a strong number. And despite not registering an assist in the Liga this season, which I have seen on social media, a few Birmingham fans not totally convinced about this signing. Well, you know, as we've just seen there, he can deliver great balls into the area. I'd say that's a big chance. And the striker failed to score. He still created 1.86 chances per 90, with 0.5 of those a game being deemed as big chances. So the creation is certainly there. It's just not all of the time that the strikers are going to be able to convert those opportunities. More on that later, because I think there are a few question marks as to whether or not Birmingham strikers can convert these chances too. But that's on the later section. The deliveries and the chances, though, not a problem. Vicente's defensive contributions were among the strongest when it comes to La Liga attackers, which makes sense given how often we saw him operating in deeper areas if we cast our mind back to the heat map earlier. Now, you can see in this example, Vicente is inside his own box, which I think is probably not a typical position for a right winger, even if you are defending in a low block. And the reason why he's trusted is because of his ability to recover possession and immediately carry the ball forward. He's got that intelligence, and we're going to see that here. Atletico Madrid is the opposition here, and as soon as this pass is slightly sloppy out to their left fullback, Vicente is on his bike. He pounces as he looks to dispossess and intercept this pass, which is exactly what he does. Strong awareness, really, really clever work here to recognise an opportunity to recover possession. That's why he's there, because he's got the pace, but he's also got that defensive awareness. He's strong in a structure, really well disciplined. Vicente said that himself. He does see himself as a winger, as an attacker, but as a fullback, as a wingback, sometimes out of possession, he has got that ability to play disciplined in a defensive organised shape. And we see that here. He steps out really well, strong timing, gets on the ball, and then immediately looks to take on this defender and carry the ball up the pitch. And this is where now we see the offensive side of his game really showing its fruits, which I think is great. We're seeing two blends of strong assets of his, if you like, as a player. And that's what we see. Now he's got hold of the ball, he's gathered a bit of space, he's now got the ability to carry the ball up the pitch, turning defence into attack really well, all by himself. Now the defender does eventually catch up with him, he looks to take him on, he then is just sort of drifting out wide a little bit. I think he was initially looking for a pass, which again is something that we're going to see a little bit later from defensive contributions. He'll look to play the ball at the pitch as well that way, not always carrying the ball. He does that here, and then he's forced the defender into making a foul. So with no option, the defender has to bring him down, and what he does here for Vicente, of course, is initially win that foul, but also, again, relieve a little bit of pressure, and that's all down to him. Strong defensive positioning, well organised in a structured unit, strong proactive intelligence to step out, make that interception, then look to show that physicality to carry the ball up the pitch powerfully, and the defender knows he's got the beating of him, so he pushes him down to win a foul. Really, really strong defensive contributions, which, again, like I said, and I reiterate the point, one of the best in the Liga for that. I think this is probably my favourite clip of the video so far, because we're seeing Vicente, interestingly, again, highlighting his strengths against the ball, in defensive areas of the pitch, in his own half. We spoke about his heat map earlier. He's not just covering the right side of the opposition half, he's also looking to be a really strong option against the ball in his own half too. And once again, here we see Vicente in his own half, this time isolated with a winger. He stands up this winger really quite well here as he looks to knock the ball past him. If we move on to our next screenshot here, he does try to knock the ball past him. And we can see if we zoom in here, he very cleverly uses his body, just drifts the arm out there, not a foul, which is great. And we see for the first time the physical strength, and it becomes really clear here. And that strength isn't an accident, because after doing a little bit of reading on Vicente and looking at his background, he actually said in an interview that he used to be a rugby player. And before football, he was playing rugby. And we see that. He's got the build of a rugby player. He's got that upper body strength. He's very, very broad shoulders. He's got the muscles, if you like, that allows him to be powerful offensively, but also really strong defensively. He's got the stamina too. We know how much rugby players run. He's got the stamina to bomb up and down that right side, be a threat going forward, carry the ball, but also be a really, really strong contributor defensively as well. Again, we see here, he fairly, and it is fair and square, uses that strength to knock that defender to the ground. It's not a foul. In fact, if anything, Vicente should be given a foul himself here, because you can see the winger here is dragging Vicente down. In fact, Vicente does fall to the ground, but what he does here is get back on his feet. Get back on his feet really well. He wants to still recover possession, winning a foul. You can see his teammates here. He's asking for a foul. He's asking for a foul. I tell you who isn't asking for a foul, Vicente, because look, by the time we next see him, he's back up on his feet. The winger face down into the grass, and now he's looking to use this as an opportunity to progress the ball up the pitch, and that's exactly what he does. He carries the ball slightly further, which is great. Still, again, this time, instead of carrying large distances, he carries briefly and then plays a really nice pass into this midfielder here, again, allowing Alavés to transition and move up the pitch very quickly. So a really strong recovery, fantastic defensive contributions, and we're seeing that deep involvement, the recovery, and then that quick, instant attacking intent. This season in La Liga, he's averaging 2.8 tackles and interceptions per 90, winning 2.91 defensive duels and 8.5 turnovers per 92. And when it comes to recoveries, as we've just seen here, Vicente averaged 4.27 per 90 in La Liga, with 1.55 of those happening in the opposition half. So how could Carlos Vicente fit into this current Birmingham side? That's been the question on social media over the last couple of days. I think there are a few ways, and we're going to come on to that just after we've looked at, again, what he offers and what he can offer in relation to this current Birmingham side, which I think, again, is important. We're not just looking at what he can do and what we've seen him do in Spain. What can he now offer for Birmingham? That's just as important as well. Now, straight away, when we line him up against Roberts, you would have noticed by watching Roberts this season and showing you what I've just shown you, they're very, very different. And we wanted to highlight that early in the video. And that's why we sort of did a head-to-head with their heat map comparison. They're extremely different. Vicente can operate down in these parts of the pitch and carry the ball. Roberts is looking to move in this half space. Again, Vicente very rarely is moving into that half space. He can do it, but certainly nowhere near as often as Patrick Roberts is. So, again, we're seeing variety. We're seeing something a little bit different. More on how Roberts and Vicente could fit into the same 11 a little bit later, because I think they can. I don't think it's one or the other. So, again, what could he bring in? Well, we're seeing delivery, for sure. We're seeing that ability to stretch play, and sometimes you want to have that ability to stretch the play. I also think if we bring in Osman for just a moment as well, you've now got players that can hug the touchline a little bit and provide that width, that double width that we really like to see from teams that are looking to unlock low blocks, which is, again, something that Birmingham can struggle with. You've got that ability to play with ultimate width here, whereas normally you've got Patrick Roberts moving inside, which can be very, very helpful to unlock some creative zones here. But again, having that double width is great. So, again, I think the signings have added something a little bit different. Again, Demarai Gray can do that as well. So you've got that ability to play in that way. You've also now got some great pace and directness. I mean, Kumas has now been sent back to Liverpool, but again, with those, Kumas and Gray didn't really have that direct speed. With Roberts, he's a quick player, but he's more technical. I think Vicente is technical, but Roberts, I think, is slightly more technical, that he uses the game and plays the game in a slightly more technical way, whereas Vicente, unbelievable directness down this right side. Incredible stamina, incredible engine to work his way up the pitch a lot of the time. And if you're going to defend and use those defensive contributions that we saw at this part of the pitch, you've got to have a pretty good engine to then start affecting play in this part of the pitch as well. So again, something a little bit different. He can recover the ball, he can carry forward, he can relieve pressure with fouls, as we've seen as well. He can win duels. So again, something that isn't currently in this Birmingham side. Athletic, but he brings that. He brings that ability to, I guess, show a bit of punch, show a bit of grit. Again, progress the ball in that way as well. And we've seen that with Birmingham signings. Let's bring a few in here. We've seen Priska, who we're going to come on to a little bit later as well, because we know he is going to benefit, we hope, from this Vicente signing. We've got Solis as well, who's been brought in. We've got Wagner already in the side. I feel like there's one more. Maybe there isn't. Maybe I'm completely... Oh, we've already got Osman in there, haven't we? And if we highlight them, Solis, athletic. Vicente, athletic. Osman, athletic, direct. Priska, athletic. Wagner, athletic, and has a strong start to his time at Birmingham. So we can see that here. We can see clearly that strategy in place going into that January window. And all of those additions there offer you that, which I really, really like. And as I briefly touched on earlier, if we speak about players that are going to benefit from this signing and how Vicente could get the best out of this Birmingham squad and the players currently in this Birmingham squad, that delivery he spoke about is very, very dangerous. And a new striker that's been brought in August Priska, as you can see up front here, if we move Stansfield to one side for a second, he's a player that, as I spoke about in the video on him, go and check it out, his aerial ability is really strong. He scored a lot of headers. He scored a lot of headers. And right now, I don't think that delivery has been consistently there. With Vicente, well, he is a delivery merchant. He wants to swing that ball in at every given opportunity. And Priska, I think for the only time this season, and now thanks to that signing, Birmingham have now got an option to have a player in there that is strong in the air and can convert headers. Kyogo Farashi has struggled to do that. Stansfield just isn't ever going to be that. And also Kyogo really to a certain extent. Duch, we know aerially isn't actually that great. So we've now got a striker that can do that. And we've now got a player on that right-hand side in Vicente, which is a great crossing ability, can also do that as well, which I really, really like. I also, quickly, I promise I'll leave you in just a second. I'm seeing more and more things come to me as I do this. I mentioned how Roberts can play on the same side as Vicente. I think he can. You know what? I wouldn't hate this. I wouldn't hate this whatsoever. We know Roberts, and not as a straight number 10 maybe, but someone that can drift into these pockets. He's doing that anyway. It's just that he's starting in wider positions. Vicente can do that anyway. We know that he's always wide, so that's not a problem. You're not losing anything by moving Roberts in that position. Half spaces in this area here, this pocket of the box he can find anyway. I really wouldn't mind Roberts in that number 10 position. Is it something that Chris Davis is going to do? Possibly not, but there is a lack of number 10s in this Birmingham squad and players that can naturally play in that number 10 position. I think Roberts can do that. He's got, like I said, that technical strength to do it. He's got that ability to find pockets and find space and pick up the ball in tight spaces. He's got the work on the board to try and wriggle his way out of those tight spaces and make something happen. He's got a great strike on him as well. So goals and, again, his chance creation numbers are the highest in this team. So as a number 10 or as a drifting, floating number 10 anyway, I really like that. Mobility, he's got that as well. So again, it might not happen. This is about purely throwing something out there. Vicente, you've got that width, you've got that delivery, you've got a real traditional winger there. I wouldn't mind Roberts in the 10. Birmingham fans, let me know. Hopefully, I've shone a light on what we could expect from Vicente joining Birmingham City. If you have enjoyed it, please do subscribe. Please do leave a like. We're on the road to 16,000 subscribers. You've been amazing over the last couple of weeks. Hopefully, if you sign a few more players, I might be piling a few more videos out anyway, but either way, this is the home of championship content. So if you want stuff like this, Birmingham, for sure, will have plenty more coming their way this season. Until next time, I've been Jack, and I'll see you all very, very soon. Take care.